for your patience and hello and welcome to the Police Accountability Report 4th Anniversary live stream. My name is Taya Graham, and along with my co-host Stephen Janis, we're going to be spending the next hour or so talking about what it takes to hold police accountable, what we have learned reporting on law enforcement across the country, and what needs to be done forward to ensure that our rights and civil liberties are not just preserved, but expanded. But tonight's show is not just about us, because we will have some great guests who will be joining us as well. The legendary James Freeman, the consummate cop watcher, will be talking to us about where he sees the phenomena of citizen journalism heading and what his own experience have taught him about filming, cops, and policing in general. We will also be joined by another legend, Otto the Watchdog, whose infamous Otto flop and comedy-infused antics continue to bring an entirely different brand, dare I say, of humor to the process of filming the police. But before we get to our great lineup of guests, Stephen and I are going to talk a bit about our own experience and thoughts about covering cops. I mean, honestly, it's been hard for me to believe it's been 4 years since I first looked into a camera and said, "My name is Taya Graham, and welcome to the Police Accountability Report." And I had no idea that we would not just be producing the show 4 years later, and that so many people like you would support us and share with us your stories and your concerns and your belief that our rights are worth preserving. And that's what I would like to focus on tonight. You, our viewers, because it has always been and will always be your input, your support, and your willingness to share your stories that have defined this show. And I mean, from the very beginning, the Police Accountability Report has been about the people of this country who care and want better for all of us and who believe that it all starts with holding power, in our case, police power, accountable. I mean, this show has grown and evolved because of your input, your voice, and your participation. And frankly, I think that's what makes us different. Unlike our corporate brethren, we don't do journalism from the top down, so to speak. We start with the people and finish with the people. And that's why the show today is as much your creation as it is ours. So just to let you know, this is a live stream, and this is a very live stream. So you're going to see me looking down on occasion, looking at the chat here. Kayla's in the back. She's going to be throwing up her comments on the screen. I'm going to be reading some of them. And hopefully things will go well, but just please be kind to us if we have any technical difficulties. So, Stephen, why don't you tell me a little bit about what it's been like the past 4 years reporting on policing, even though let's just make sure that it's known for certain that Stephen has been reporting on police accountability for a lot longer than the past 4 years. It's just this show.
Well, what's really interesting to me, a couple of things, because, I used to be a local police reporter, right, working out of Baltimore. And part of joining the Police Accountability Report and working with you was looking at policing nationally, right? So first of all, I was a little naive as a reporter. I thought police corruption was something, that Baltimore had sort of a little bit of let's say, a franchise on. It wasn't something that was problematic in other cities. And also, I had come from the mainstream media, which has a very different way about reporting on policing and about reporting on people who are victims of police brutality. So the first thing is that what really I thought was very interesting was that we found, as we started reporting across the country, that cities were not the only communities that dealt with bad policing, police overreach, or police malfeasance. That actually, rural communities suffered from the same problem. And in some ways it was worse simply because there were fewer places for people to turn in rural communities. I think that's something we both can say that, when we expanded our reach and when I expanded my reach, I was like, wow, this is really rural communities kind of have no defense. There's no media there. There's no police accountability report in Milton, West Virginia, or some of the other small towns. And police in those towns have tremendous power because of that. There's no, even in Baltimore, we have civil rights attorneys who will sue the police department, not so much in rural communities. So that was a big lesson learned. But the other thing that's very important, and I think it's important about what you talked about thematically at the beginning of the show, is that when you report on policing for, mainstream media outlets, usually the first question when I had a victim was, do they have a criminal record? Number one, do they have a criminal record? So that would be the focus of my reporting in a sense, or, who are they? Or what? There was sort of this weighing of the social status of the person as being important or integral to the story, right? That you couldn't just report on bad policing or someone being a victim of police misconduct, but you had to vet them so that they were clean enough or whatever it was they wanted, or part of the elite class or whatever. It had to be a person who was of some standing in their eyes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you had any hint of a criminal record.
Right.
No matter what.
I mean, just an arrest that had been prosecuted, for example.
Right. You could simply be charged, and your assertion that you had dealt with police harassment, police misconduct, police
didn't matter.
Would be completely dismissed.
I used to get in screaming matches with my editors because, like, they wanted me to put in the first paragraph of my stories because I was a print reporter, the criminal record or just the arrest, and I was like, these charges were dropped. So one of the things I think has been really wonderful about the police accountability report is that that's not how we do. That's not our process. Right. We don't do that kind of vetting. We look at the specific incident, how police have treated someone, and we take it from there. And that's all it should be, right? You know, you don't lose your rights because you've had some other encounter with law enforcement. It's very hard in a country where millions of arrests happen every year not to be arrested or not to get a ticket or whatever. It's very easy. So we don't do our reporting that way. And I think that's why it's important. But one thing I wanted to do, and I'm sorry to do this, but this is clip number 1, Dwayne. I was wondering if we could play the very first time Taya said, welcome. Yeah, well, I had to dig for this clip. If Dwayne, do you have clip number 1? Because
what cave did you drag that out of?
You'll see. Watch. You're gonna. You,
I need you to hit the teleport.
Hey, so what do you think? I think you're looking pretty good.
It's kind of awful to see yourself age
right
from police accountability reporting.
But you know, when we were talking about something that strikes me when I watch you there is the evolution of police reporting for me is also the evolution from being in a studio to just being in front of a bookcase. It's like a different experience. Watching you there, I kind of look like you kind of look a little more mainstream, not that mainstream, but you know, but I think I like you in front of the bookcase better. It'd be interesting to hear what people think about that. Do you like Taya in her original form when she was in a big studio, or do you think Taya's better in front of
or do you like the quarantine look?
Right.
Locked down in the basement in front of a bookshelf.
Right. So I think
sorry, Dwayne, do you mind just scrolling forward just a little bit for me? Thank you.
So
just a little, okay, perfect. Thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so,
like I said, technical stuff happening.
I know it's an interesting question. I didn't want to embarrass you, but I had to show that first clip. I wanted people to see it.
You didn't want to embarrass me?
Well, I was trying. Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
Maybe like a little bit?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay. Well, Stephen, if you want to get personal about it, let's get personal.
Why?
Because I have also something to show our audience.
What do you mean?
Your role in the show.
You do?
I do.
You do.
I have something a little special. It's called The Man Outside. Dwayne, can you run that?
Wait, this isn't about me being outside, is it?
I might have a little something to do with you being outside.
Oh man, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't tell me this.
Dwayne, I need you to move the towel. Oh, okay.
Every day I come to work, I think today is a day. The day I'm going to work inside.
So what do you need?
Come on, Taya. Inside today?
I'm sorry. You know the rules. It's your contract. Stephen has to be outside. It's what the people want. But you do have unlimited free coffee.
Taya's like really strict about it. So sometimes I try to go above her head, go to our editor. Hey, Max, do you think today I could work inside maybe?
What? No. Get out of here. Look, I mean, Stephen's an okay guy, but I mean, I'm looking at his contract right here, and it says he's supposed to be outside 80% of the time. I didn't write it, but, you know, we honor contracts here at The Real News.
Oh, man, I gotta go outside again. Jesus Christ.
Stephen,
Yeah.
That's your coffee.
So I try to make the best of it and just do my job. Well, this coffee kind of grows on you.
I mean, it's free coffee. It's in the contract that it's supposed to be free, but it's good coffee. I drink it.
You know, I think it's free, but I'm not really sure. I'll have to check my pay stub. I hope it is. Damn it.
Look, Stephen has to have his equipment. He's just not going to be able to get the work done. He has to be ready at all times.
I spend a lot of time practicing because it looks easy, but it's really not. Taya, thanks for Taya, thanks for having me. 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 Taya, thanks for having me.
I just don't like having Steven in the office that much. I mean, the guy always wears his tie askew like he's better than me. So, you know, it's a win-win for all of them.
Look, I think the biggest thing that keeps Steven outside isn't even really the journalism. It's the coffee. And it's free.
I mean, are there days that I want to be inside and warm with everybody else? Sure. But Max and Taya depend on me to be out there and to be ready. So free coffee aside, I'm going to stand out there and I'm going to tell the truth to my audience because that's what they expect and that's who I am. I'm the man outside.
So that's a little something that I made for Steven.
I cannot believe
And
you
I'm
did
so
that.
glad that you finally embraced your role of being the man outside. You just need to accept it. That's what the people want. That's what they expect. They want to see a hard-hitting journalist out there on the streets.
Yeah, but I don't think it's really fair, honestly. I think sometimes I should be allowed to be inside. I'm kind of enjoying this. I got my coffee right here, which is free, right?
Of course.
Oh,
of course.
Okay. Well,
Absolutely free.
so I think, well, you know, I know that you have made it very clear. I have to be outside. I know it's in my contract, obviously, which I guess I was hearing someone was texting me that you shared my contract with the public, that everyone knows that it says I have to be outside. Okay, fine, but whatever. But still the coffee's free, so I'm happy. So you can't bring me down. I'm going to stay outside and drink my free coffee. I'm fine. Yeah.
Oh, of course you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's sweet. But of course, now that we've established Steven's role, it's time to move on to our guest because it wasn't just Steven being outside or me sitting in front of a bookshelf that make our show possible. We also adapt to another facet of what makes PAR, well, for lack of a better phrase, PAR, the Police Accountability Report. And that would be the YouTube community, which has embraced us. First, of course, there are thousands of people who comment or share tips or give us advice or simply just let us know that they're watching. People who join us in the live chat and make insightful and important comments that only add to the depth of our work. But of course, a big part of that YouTube community is the phenomenon known as cop watching. People who go out and watch cops and film them and document what they're doing, file lawsuits, post videos on YouTube, and otherwise do what needs to be done to hold police accountable and more. And you know, I think it's a phenomenon that's underappreciated, Steven. I thought it was interesting what you said during our breaking coverage of the death of Tyree Nichols, which of course has led to the charges of second-degree murder against 5 Memphis police officers. You made an interesting point about how this case might, in some sense, prove that cop watchers are more than just a nuisance for law enforcement. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I was thinking of an analogy from when I was reporting that there was this thing called integrity tests that they used to do police officers where they would put drugs somewhere or do something to kind of where they weren't expecting to be tested. And I think to a certain extent, people always say, well, why do these guys stand out there and just film routine traffic stops? Because in this country, as we see, routine traffic stops can be deadly.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you have police out wearing, you know, masks over their face, wouldn't it be good if some cop watchers had been watching when this had happened or watching this unit? There are people like Tom Zever and Laura Shark who have tracked, you know, these specialized units. And people out in Colorado have caught specialized units, you know, taping them and filming them. So I think to a certain extent, the ubiquity and the fact that cop watchers film routine and things that people say, you know, you don't need to do this. You only need to be there when something crazy happens. Well, preventing something crazy from happening is having an eye on the street at all times.
Absolutely.
And this is a really important part of it. Cops don't know when they're going to show up, right? That's the analogy with the integrity test. The integrity test idea was like, cops aren't going to know at this point that we're testing their integrity, and we'll see how much integrity they have. Well, very, very similarly with cop watchers, it's like a roving integrity test.
That's a great point. You know, that makes me think of how cop watchers actually originated. I think it was around 1966.
66?
Yes, that cop watch was started by Black.
Late on this story.
I know. Apparently, we're actually late to the story. That's a good point. They was started by Black Panthers, and they would go out with notepads, and some of them would go out with guns and keep an eye on what police were doing in their community. And then I think there's another notable in the history of cop watching. His name was Don Jackson. He later changed it to Diop Kamau. And that gentleman was originally an LA police officer, but he left the force and he started recording police brutality himself. And he would put himself right in the middle of it. As a matter of fact, there's this great scene where he is in a car, cop pulls him over and he said, "Why do you ask me out of the car?" The police officer grabs him, slams, says, "Put your hands up." And he finally does. He gave him a little lip, but not a lot. And he complies. The officer slams his head into the side of a glass window, smashing the glass. Then he throws him over the hood of a car, but luckily he had cameras in the back of his car that caught all of this. So he's continued that tradition. That's actually a website now called policeabuse.org, and they are still helping people to this day. So this is a noble and long tradition of cop watching.
Then, we're going to show you a little clip of Tom Zebra, but he was doing since the early aughts. I don't want to get the time frame wrong, but I looked at some of the video he gave us. It was from 2003. So this idea. There's this idea that technology created cop watching. Well, that's not exactly true.
Not exactly.
Cop watching occurred long before there were cameras.
I think Diab Kamal was doing it in the 1980s.
Yeah, and so I think that's what makes it such an interesting thing, that people holding power accountable, it was right there on the streets prior to this idea of I have a YouTube channel. So when people try to dismiss cop watching and say it's just because they're a bunch of YouTubers, they just want to make money on YouTube. Well, there were people doing it before, and as Tom Zebra points out, as you will see, he wasn't making money off of YouTube.
So now, to be fair, cop watching is not just a type of journalism. It is also an art form, as Stephen has said, an art form that is defined by the approach and the style of each person who decides to pick up a camera and watch police. And because it's such a complex and interesting phenomena, as we've noted, a form of folk or citizen journalism, we have been working on a long form piece to document it. A big part of that piece is examining what happened to one of the most controversial cop watchers out there, Eric Brandt. Now, as you all might know, Eric was sentenced to 12 years in prison for making threats against 3 Denver judges, a lengthy punishment that is as controversial as Eric's own colorful style of cop watching. But we also talked to a lot of others who are involved in this phenomenon, people from across the country who are just as passionate and committed to it as any journalists. And in fact, we have a special preview clip of this long form piece to show you just how diverse and creative cop watching really is. So if you can, Dwayne, please cue clip 3, Cop Watchers.
My name is Winston Knowles. A lot of people know me by Otto.
YouTube knows me as Blind Justice. It's a channel we started a couple years ago.
My name is Laura. Shark, I'm a cop watcher.
Joe Cool, I'm a YouTuber, man, out of Chicago. I chase cops. Yeah.
My name's Kyle Shockley.
What's your YouTube channel?
Monkey83, MUNKAY83.
But you go by YouTube. What's your YouTube?
Liberty Free TV.
ENC Tire Hunter.
Okay. Pajama Audits.
Brian Loma.
I go by Pikes Peak Auditors or Pikes Peak Accountability on YouTube.
On YouTube, it's Tom Zebra.
It means I have a channel on YouTube. I'm a police accountability, and I go out there and watch cops.
I wear pajamas, and I go and I videotape our public officials.
I'm a member of the Free Press.
I never really considered it auditing or looked at it in that way.
And I just built up the nerve, bought a camera, and went out and started filming.
I even told my wife, I'm like, there's no way I could do that. No way I can sit in front of cops and talk the way they do, right? So about 4 months later, I got a camera.
I try to be funny, humor and music are 2 things that bring everybody together.
Sometimes I'll get a hi, Laura. Sometimes I'll get all of a sudden it's wrapped up and they're gone.
In the beginning, there was no YouTube, so there was really no way to share the videos.
I was doing like what they call audits, or where you go into public buildings and you just record.
Well, we're out here with First Amendment Strike Team at the Northrop Grumman building.
But I changed kind of from that area to go over to cop watching.
Cop watch over by the ASU campus. I'm out here with Word 'em Up TV.
But after a while, you get into it, you find different ways. It's a tool. You find different ways to use that tool. Look at this, yo, my man knocked out. You woke, baby? You woke now?
My motto is pajamas because our government isn't worth getting dressed for.
Everybody's having a fit about what you're doing out here. So what?
What do you mean they're having a fit?
My very first night out, a police sergeant tried snatching a camera out of my hands. Name and badge number, please.
So what?
Because I requested it.
You don't gotta request that. I use it as punishment, right? Motherfucker, when the cops are acting, I use it as protection. If I go a certain place, cops are not gonna get tickets and shit in that area.
Now stop talking to me. Now stop talking to me. It's either way, my way or the highway.
I got word through a friend that the local council was trying to make it illegal for people to sit on sidewalk.
They say it's illegal for people to sit down on the public sidewalk, telling the public they can't sit down outside public places.
And then the third time I went out, they tried charging me with 3 felonies of intimidation when I was standing 20 feet away.
The question of you're being summoned. Hold on. Brought into the courts in regards to this. Are you refusing, sir? I'm going to ask.
I haven't committed a crime.
You'll be part of.
I haven't committed a crime.
Well, then I'm going to move forward on it.
The early 2000s, I was frustrated enough with the police where I started recording other people's interactions.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
Not much.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
This your car?
Yes, sir.
Where are you coming from? Where do you live?
I'm coming from getting dinner and I'm going home.
And it's really silly. Like it's the things that I've been arrested for are pretty silly. Not all of them.
I do have a complainant that's willing to sign a statement against you.
Okay.
For the language on the sign.
I've never had a problem with these. I don't have a history of like arrests ever. It's like there's just so much to do with their level of power, their level of creating criminals out of innocent people.
I went to council meetings and was trying to get the reasoning for it. They claimed it was a safety issue, and I asked how it was a safety issue if somebody's sitting on the sidewalk.
That this ordinance is specifically targeting the homeless to remove
I
them
think
because
that's
they're
definitely an
hurting.
argument that I would take if I was attempting to undermine the legality of this ordinance.
That's
But
not the position that we're taking. We're just saying that's the position that
I-
we're hearing from most
Right.
Well, I think that
By 2012, I was frustrated enough to where I did it every single day.
You got any guns or knives in the car?
No, sir.
You got valid driver's license?
Yes, sir.
Where is it at?
It's in my center console.
Don't reach. You don't have a gun or anything
No,
in there?
sir. There's nothing illegal in here.
What's going on with the camera?
That's the camera.
Yeah, but what's going on with that?
Well, it's sitting there recording.
There was actually a countdown between the number of days that police officers had killed somebody, right? Like you have no accidents at work for how many days? The police haven't killed anybody for 3 days, for 5 days, 0 days.
It was like to protect myself, from the police and the, the tapes would just go in a box.
No guns, right? What kind of work you do?
Sir, why didn't you pull me over?
You're going a little quick, buddy.
Did I do something wrong?
Yeah, you're going a little quick.
No, I was going 25 and then 25, sir.
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure it's all valid. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed getting a little preview of what we are working on. It's going to be a long form piece, and this is just the beginning. This is not the limit on the cop watchers we are including. This is just the beginning, and we're very excited to move forward with this project. So, Stephen, can you talk a little bit about it and what our approach is?
Well, it's fascinating because every person who's been involved in this has an incredible personal backstory.
Yes.
It's kind of like an origin story for superheroes.
Mhm.
And so each person I've sat down and talked to, and each person we visited, came at this a different way, from a different perspective. It's not kind of like journalism, which is much more uniform. You go to journalism school, you
Mhm.
go to like the mainstream media indoctrination camp, where they
Is
tell
that
to
where you
repeat-
went?
Yeah, that's where I went.
I'm
I went to
pretty
the
sure that's
mainstream-
where you
Yeah, it's kind of
went.
brutal. They keep you up all night. They don't let you sleep. Anyway, but these guys are really interesting because they all sort of came back creatively, kind of at the same time.
Mhm.
There wasn't any sort of script or way to do it. It was just like, hey, I think police are abusing their power, so I'm going to fight back, but it's going to be my style. Not like I'm
I
not going to
know.
work for a newspaper or something where it's not kind of a uniform style, like AP style. Sorry, it's just going to be my style. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we're trying to capture is the creativity, the innovation, the performance, but
Mhm.
also, the commitment to rights and holding police accountable. It's all
And
in there.
can I
Yeah.
just say something? It feels to me like this is a very from the ground up movement. It's
Totally.
not top down. So I'd have to say in a lot of
It's-
mainstream media, it's top down is the way the information works. But with cop watching, it's the people in action. And I think that's what makes it unique. And some of the people we've seen, they take a variety of approaches. Some people use humor. Some people just stay very much by the book. I think I would say when it comes to humor, I would think of Otto the Watchdog. When it comes to being by the book, I would think of the Batusai. But either way, it has value because it's holding this power accountable.
Yep. And so, I think when we think about it, it's kind of like, I don't mean this word, I mean this word in reference to the music form, punk journalism.
It is kind of punk rock journalism.
I don't mean that in disrespect, like these are punks. I mean this in what,
of course,
the wonderful music form that was invented in this, invented in Europe, but also I think invented in this country, that really allowed it, and it sort of toppled the top heavy music industry that existed at the time.
Right. It did shift that paradigm.
It was a grassroots movement. And I think this is a grassroots movement. I think some people, just because it's YouTube-ish and it's a little weird, but it's just the same energy to me to a certain extent as punk music had in this country. So, I'm excited about it.
Well, now, just like Stephen noted, while discussing our long-term look at cop watching, our guests tonight certainly have their own particular style. And that is definitely true for our next guest, James Freeman. James has honestly invented his own form of watching cops by using humor, sometimes in-your-face tactics, and even sometimes flipping the script on the cops when they least expect it. Cue clip for James Freeman.
What are you working on right now?
Several cases.
Okay.
What is this about?
Are you working on something right now?
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
All right. What are you working on? What are you working on?
It doesn't matter what I'm working on. I'm asking you, what are you doing here taking pictures?
Where have you been today? Have you been here all day, or have you been out and about a little bit?
What is this about? Who are you?
I'm asking the questions. Where have you been today?
No,
have you been here?
I'm asking the questions. You're on this property. You're on this property, so you need to answer my questions.
Are you drunk? Why are you slurring your words today? So have you been here all day, or have you been out? Have you been to the bar today at all? I investigate corrupt officials. So I'm wondering, where have you been today? Have you been here all day, or have you been out at the bar at all?
Working on a fraud case. That's
Okay.
where I've been.
Okay. Have you been to the bar at all today?
No.
Okay. You got any drugs on you? Have you used any drugs today?
What a ridiculous question.
That's not a ridiculous question. Do you know where he's been today? Does he usually drink on the job, or no? Not that anybody knows of for sure. Have you guys ever breathalyzed him while he's been on the job? Would you submit to a breathalyzer for me right now?
You're ridiculous. You know that?
Hey.
You've got about 5 minutes to get out of here right now.
Or what?
Or what? You're on
My
law
property.
enforcement. This isn't your
Yeah, it is.
property.
Shut the hell up.
Oh,
here.
you get out of here now.
Hey, you better get it. You better get your boy. Get your butt back in your office
You
and do
shut
your
up.
job.
You shut up and get
You
out
get
of
your butt back in your office and do your job. Don't look back here again. I'll be watching you.
So as you can see, James Freeman really flipped the script on those cop watchers. And I took a look in the chat, and there are definitely some people who recognize this clip and absolutely love it. And oh, by the way, I got to shout out a cop watcher I just saw there, Monkey 83. Speaking of cop watchers with their own style, I have literally seen Monkey 83 make a cop disappear in less than 60 seconds.
Yes.
Now
when we're out in Denver.
Yeah,
Yes.
I bore witness to
That
his
was
power.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I would say his style could be considered a little provocative. You
I
know,
think so.
he peppers in some of the four-letter words here and
Yeah.
there, but he gets the job done. So that's another cop watcher that will be part of our documentary. But let me not keep anyone waiting. We have the James Freeman with us. So we are going to be joined by the man himself.
There he is.
James, thank you so
James.
much for joining us.
Thank you. I think so. I think you talked. He's actually in an undisclosed location.
Yeah, I think you might be muted. James.
I'm muted. Thank you all for having me on tonight.
Do you hear him now?
I see him laughing, but
Oh,
I
we hear
don't
him? Okay.
quite hear him yet myself.
But you hear him, right?
Hi,
Okay.
James.
Hey, I can hear you. I'm not muted anymore.
Oh, you know what, Dwayne, I'm not able to hear James. You got me? Okay. All right.
Well,
Well,
first we'll ask him a question. and
okay,
we-
well, you know what? I'm going to hope that everyone else can hear James, and I'm going to ask him a question first. This is a cop, I believe, in Arizona that you're having this interesting conversation with. Maybe you could tell me what you were doing. I think you were just taking pictures in a parking lot of police cars. Maybe you could fill us in.
Yeah, can the audience hear me?
Yep.
All right. It
Yes,
sounds
we
like
can.
all right. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is an honor. And yeah, that day I was out at the police department. I can't even remember exactly where that was, but I remember the cop's name is Mike Jardine. And I was recording inside of their police cars, which I think is incredibly invasive. I think it's rude. I think it's inappropriate. And I see police do it all the time. Not necessarily record, but at DUI checkpoints, I see them looking inside of the car. I've been through a lot of border patrol checkpoints. They're always peeking in my windows. I think it's rude, it's invasive, and turnabout is fair play. And this guy came up and started asking me what I'm doing. And I did the old script flip on him, which was really an idea that I got from a book that I read where that just really hit me. Larkin Rose, when he said, how would police react if we were to walk up to them and start asking them accusatory questions, ask them to disarm themselves, and take immediate control of the situation and pretend like we're above everybody else in the room. And so I took that and I said, how would they act? And I did this a number of times, but this particular video, this cop was the best reaction I ever got. I had no idea what to do.
What amazes me when I watch the video is how dumbfounded cops seem when you ask them the questions they always ask us. That was like, they almost seem like you take their breath away by asking the questions. Did that surprise you?
Not entirely, because the truth is most of the things that they ask and the tactics they use, they are abrasive. It's not normal human interaction. It's not how any normal human would interact with another, but it's precisely what they do. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that they're shocked by it. I think anybody should be shocked by being treated like that by another human being.
I just had a quick question. I was actually talking to Otto the Watchdog, and he mentioned that occasionally the mainstream media use your content without giving you any credit. Is that the case?
I think so. That particular video is everywhere. And, I really am just glad that people get to see it. So I mean that's the good part. It would be cool if they gave credit, but that's okay.
If it makes you feel any better, it happens to us too.
Yeah. Do you? You've been doing this for a while in cop watching parlance. Where do you see cop watching going as a phenomenon? Like, where do you see it headed from when you first started? How has it changed?
Well, I've only been in it for such a short time. I mean,
how long is that?
Especially 5-6 years, maybe.
Okay.
I'd say 7 at the most.
Okay.
And really been uploading for about 5.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Tom Z. Well, when I started, we had a place to upload, but I didn't know that you could really do that. I would say my first cop watch was when I chased a cop down the freeway in Rockwall, Texas, where Otto the Watchdog was arrested a few times.
Wow.
I caught him speeding, and I caught him speeding, and in the whole script flip thing, I said, well, I'm going to go chase him down and call 911. But
I'm sorry, we just started laughing for a second. And so that was like your first video, but what made you decide, well, I want to keep doing this, I guess would be the question, like what about it attracted you to it in terms of going forward and doing more?
Honestly, the audience wanting me to do it more. The first couple of videos I uploaded were I wasn't looking for it. It just happened. I was sick and tired of not just police, but all government behavior. I was tired of dealing with them. And when I uploaded, it was a border patrol checkpoint video, actually, that I'd gone through with my family. And PNP News actually shared it, and over 500,000 people ended up seeing it. And at the time, I didn't even know what this cop watching community was too much. And after PNP shared it, people like Monk I-83 started reaching out, Johnny 50, a few others, and they said, hey man, you should do this more. Like, what? Do this more? Like, have more police interactions? No.
That would be a sane choice. I would understand that.
Does it? I mean, does it cause stress doing these kind of things? I mean, like when I watch you interacting with that cop, I feel like I would be stressed out, or you know, even as a reporter, I've had to ask questions, but I don't know if I'd have.
Wait a second, Stephen. I've seen you get mad when cops have infringed upon your First Amendment rights.
Well, that's true. I don't like it when
I've
they
seen
tell
that.
me to move my camera. I get very angry.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, does that affect you at all? Like, you know, like being out there with a cop, just with a camera?
Yeah, of course. The videos that are more humorous affect me in a good way. I walk away laughing, just, you know, like a lot of the audience does, I think. But most of the stuff that when I'm out recording, most of the stuff I do, I don't even upload in the first place. I go out and I cop watch for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time, and I'll live stream it just to hang out with the audience, but I don't even upload most of it. And a lot of the things that we see police do, I'm sure it's probably the same for most of us. It wears on the soul. While some of the stuff I do is humorous, seeing the public constantly abused is it's draining for sure. And in many instances, I've found that I've numbed myself to some of the things that they do, and so.
Wow.
You know what? I got a really interesting question from Blind Just. Sorry, I'm having a little echo. He said, have you ever been detained or interfered with on the job when it comes to police? I mean, didn't they try
He's
to...
talking to me?
Yeah, to you. To you.
I thought you were talking to James.
No, sorry. I just thought it was a good question.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have a camera, yes. I have not, I don't want to say whether or not I've been arrested because that'll just jinx me. But, you know, one of the most stressful times that we had when we were working on the Pocomoke documentary, we were investigating, you know, the prosecution of the first Black police chief of Pocomoke City, who did a great job. And then all the prosecutors started coming after him because he got fired. And then I heard there was a grand jury investigating us, and that they were timing how long it took us to drive to this interview. They pulled my phone records. So when I get subpoenaed, and I've been subpoenaed into a police, you know, administrative hearing, and have cops yell at me. You know, it's when the courts start messing with you that I think, you know, I can handle most of the time the police on the street most of the time, but it's the harassment from the judiciary and the harassment from prosecutors that struck the most fear in me. So that was pretty bad. Yeah.
I mean, I can just say my personal experience, just being a Baltimore City resident, I was harassed by cops in multiple ways. One of the most common ones is that the neighborhood I lived in was considered a high crime neighborhood. So at any time in the aughts, I could be asked to provide my ID, and I could be arrested for failing to ID. If I couldn't prove that I lived in that neighborhood, I would be under suspicion of buying drugs or even sex work. So I had to have ID on me to prove that I belong there. And I saw other people arrested. And this was during a time period in Baltimore where people were arrested for spitting on the sidewalk, for having an open container of beer, for urinating in an alley, and like I said, for simply not providing ID. And I experienced multiple forms of harassment from police personally. But that was before I was even a reporter.
I have to make a comment here back to James.
Back to James.
Because
just answering questions.
4 or 5 hours of watching cops is unbelievably amazing. I mean, is that like a normal thing for you? Like a normal night, like 4 hours of cop watching?
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I don't do it all the time, but yeah, usually when I go out, especially now, because I live an hour to an hour and a half away from any major city. And so if I'm going out cop watching, it's a big deal for me to, I mean, it's already going to take 2 hours to 3 hours round trip anyway. So yeah, I stay out for quite a bit of time.
And what do you look for when do you have a radio where do you hear like their stops?
Like, do you have a
just look
scanner?
for a scanner? Do you look for just any stop? Is there anything specifically you do in your methodology? I don't mean to get too granular, but it's fascinating to me. So just curious.
Me too.
Yeah, what we do is I mean, it could get boring, certainly, driving around for 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes we'll go out for 4 or 5 hours and not see anything at all. But yeah, we'll use a scan. I use a scanner sometimes. Other times we just cruise around looking around for flashing red and blue lights. Tucson police figured out when I was out there with Tuck Police Suck and Pigs Under Pressure, they would figure out when we were out, and they would actually stop turning on their emergency lights for emergencies so that we wouldn't spot them as easily.
But see, that's what to my point before about, you know, sort of about the integrity traps or whatever, you know, the integrity test, that you guys are out there and you really have an effect. You can't say you don't have an effect if stuff like that happens, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like to think so. In some places more than others. I think that Arizona is one of the worst. They just don't want to change. In New Mexico, I think that in some places we've had a little bit of effect in changing attitudes and behaviors, at least while the camera is around. In places like Tucson and Mesa, where DirectD is at, it almost seems to be getting worse. They've got their legislators behind them. They recently made a new law that you can't record police without their permission, which was quickly struck down by a judge. But
thank goodness.
But tell us a little bit, just real quickly, tell us a little bit about that law. Was that the law where you couldn't be within 8 feet of a police officer, or was that a different law?
No, that was it. And when I first heard about it, and heard, well, you just can't be within 8 feet. I said, well, that's great, because usually they won't let us be within 100 feet. So this sounds pretty good to me. They're going to let us get up to 8 feet. I mean, we see people get arrested all the time, 50, 60, 70 feet away, right?
Right.
But the problem was that it also said that in order to even be within 8 feet of a cop, you had to have their permission to record them at all. And
wow. So you had to ask them, can I record you? And then what would they do? Say yes? I mean, when would they say yes?
I never went out and did any cop watching out there during the very, very short time that law had been passed and before a judge did an injunction on it. There is one video though, where do you remember it was within the last couple of months that it was released. It was that polygamous leader who got pulled over with a bunch of girls in the back of his truck and a trailer. Did you guys happen to see that?
I did not.
I don't think so.
No.
Certainly not sticking up for that guy, but the girls, the alleged victims in this situation started recording the police. This was in Flagstaff, Arizona, with their phones.
Wow.
And the police told them, hey, we just passed a new law that you can't record us. And this was their own interaction. And even in that law, it said that you couldn't be within 8 feet unless you were a subject of the stop or the interaction, which they were. But as usual, police misinterpret and misread everything and believed that the law said, oh, even these victims aren't allowed to record their police interaction, made them all put their phones on the truck, bullied them, intimidated them. And these were young women who were already victims of a crime, allegedly. And further victimized by the state and the police.
Well, James, would you stick around?
Can you stick around? Would you hold on?
Yeah.
Please don't
absolutely.
go anywhere, because not to be outdone, we are now going to bring in another cop watcher known for turning cop watching into an art form, if not comedy itself. Otto the Watchdog. I can't hear myself. Hey, you know what? We have a clip.
Yeah. Let's play the clip.
Hi, Otto.
I don't answer questions. What do you want me to do? I'm asking you a question. What do you want me to do? I want to leave right now. I want to leave right now. I want to walk away right now. I want to walk away. Can I leave?
Listen to what I'm saying.
Tell me, can I leave? Can I leave? Can I leave? Am I being detained or am I free to go? I'm being detained.
You can't say cuss words.
I can't say words?
You can't say cuss
Can you
words.
provide me with a list of words that I'm not allowed to say in public, sir? No, I don't. Could you define it for me, sir?
The curse word, disorderly conduct.
What curse word was I using that I'm not allowed to use?
I'm not gonna start. But when we first contacted you, you were so aggravated at us. You didn't give us a chance to talk.
I can't imagine why anybody would be aggravated at two fine, upstanding gentlemen like you.
Exactly. See, stop doing the middle finger. You can't do that. Cheating language. That's part of the custom.
Is that a curse word?
No. But you forgot to put the video camera. Like we recorded if you using the middle finger.
Like this one?
Yeah. You can't
Okay.
be doing that. You can't dismiss us.
Why can I not dismiss you? Are you not here to protect and serve?
Yeah,
Well, you're protecting the shit out of me. I don't want your protection. They're protecting the fuck out of me. Is that another ticket? Hey, pig. What's this pig's name? What's that pig's name?
literally edited that clip myself, and I'm like, I've watched it so many times, and it cracks me up every single time. I'm sorry. Oh my
You
gosh.
have to welcome Otto.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lose my proper reporter decorum. Welcome to Otto the Watchdog. Thank you for joining
Hi.
us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to see you. So,
but not to break it down, but Otto, what made you decide to kowtow? I guess would that be the best description to a police officer?
I don't know. I was worshiping them as the gods that they are. Honestly, I was so angry that day that I was just angry, and I was just lashing out, and it just seemed appropriate. So
Could you set it up a little bit for us, just not to get too much into it, but you had been just a little bit of the backstory so we know what.
Oh yeah, so I had already been oh man, I've been arrested a bunch of times. I think that was a while ago, so the progression is a little fadey, but I've been arrested a bunch of times, and I think that I had just been arrested for I think out of court, probably for some administrative thing, like, you know, I don't know. I was arrested a bunch, so I think I just got out of jail like the night before, and I was walking because I didn't even have a vehicle in the state of Texas, and I had to come back to Texas to be there, and I flew in, and then I got arrested, so I missed my flight out, so I was kind of stuck there, and I was walking on my way to meet with a lawyer that morning, and I was on the phone with a different lawyer and I walk outside of the gas station, and here come two squad cars rolling up, and I was on the phone with my attorney, and I said, I got to let you go. I think I'm about to get arrested again. And I pulled out the phone and started recording, and my phone was dying. It died in the middle of recording that, and I was so afraid because they don't have a good reputation with recording stuff. Especially Rockwall, there's actually not any police recordings from that event. So if it wasn't for my recording, that never had happened. You know, like nobody would ever believe it.
Is Rockwell the mecca of cop watching? I mean, James has been there. You've been. I mean, but more seriously, no. Go ahead.
So I think it just so happened that we were located there geographically. We just kind of happened to. That just happened to be where we went a lot.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So more importantly, though, I know you've had lawsuits pending against the illegal arrest because they dropped most of the charges in these cases, correct?
Oh yeah, all of my cases.
All your cases have been dropped.
Dismissed.
So
I still have 0 convictions for anything except for a speeding ticket, and I pled guilty to that because I was speeding.
And you know, you are in the process of suing them. What's the status of those cases? What's going on with that at this point?
So my oldest lawsuit still pending is 4 years old, and we're still rolling through court on that one.
So
it'll be done eventually, I guess.
And this is a federal civil
I have
rights
several
case?
against Rockwall, and then also some out of Denver as well.
Oh wow. Are they federal 1983 cases, or are they local state cases?
They're all 1983 cases. We filed them in district court, so they're on the district level.
Go ahead.
I don't know as much about that as some others do, but
right. And what kind of, I know we talked about this with you, but you've been through a lot, and what kind of toll has this taken on you, just as a person who decided to fight back because you're being treated unfairly? And I know you bring humor to it. You're a funny guy. But it must have affected you in some way beyond the humor,
Oh yeah, I was messed up for quite a while. I'm still not really over it, but every day gets a little bit easier. I got hit really hard, harder than a lot of people do when they first go public. Everybody gets hit. You know what I mean? Everybody gets hit. Man, it was a perfect storm, and they did exactly what police do, and they found a reason to make it worse. And that's exactly what they did. And it just so happened that it culminated on me, and it didn't. It was bad, and I'm still not over it. It's still I still worry about that all the time, about every little aspect of it. You know what I mean?
It's understandable. And I just want you to know that Blind Justice, who has also done his own government audits,
Right.
has a question. Do either James or Otto have any pending federal lawsuits that they are feel comfortable talking about, of course?
Okay. I should have said asked if they could feel comfortable.
Yes, if you feel comfortable discussing any pending lawsuits. This is from Blind Justice.
Oh yeah, Blind Justice is a good guy.
So
I
either one of
have
you can
several.
go ahead.
So I guess James.
Settled for, there was a whole bunch of us involved in that, but that was $500,000 between 12 of us. So and Leon Valley spent over $1 million fighting that in the 4.5 years. So the taxpayer paid quite a bit of money. And then the only other pending one that I have is from Arizona from 2 years ago in November, when I was standing about 20 feet away from a traffic stop that was over and ended. They were just waiting for a tow truck. Cop came and Arizona State Police came and wrapped me in caution tape and then attacked me.
Wait, what?
What?
Are you messing with me?
No, that really happened.
So explain this. So you're standing there with a camera. They wrapped you in caution tape?
Yeah, they decided that I couldn't be that close. And by the way, they were done with their stop. They were waiting for a tow truck. They weren't doing anything else. And so they wrapped an area in crime scene tape and said, "Hey, this is our crime scene." But I was inside of it. And so I said, "Well,
so
I'm not going anywhere." And they didn't even say you're under arrest, nothing like that. The cop just lashes out, attacks me, just starts punching me in the face.
Oh, no, I'm
throws me to
sorry.
the ground.
I'm sorry, we shouldn't be laughing.
I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. You're fine. It's good to laugh. I get in trouble for this all the time. I laugh about this stuff because there's, and I think Otto's kind of embraced it. If you don't laugh, you're probably going to cry. And that's why I think I laugh at about a lot of things that, you know, maybe I shouldn't, but go ahead, laugh. It's because it's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous.
I remember we were watching. We did a story on the Texas Cop Watcher where they went like, he was like 100 feet away, and they did this huge crime scene, and it is comical. It is comical.
Agreed.
I mean, you know,
It would be funny if it wasn't true.
right? And as Otto always
but
refers to
these
George
things,
Carlin,
these
right?
things, if it was a made-for-TV movie, then these things would be funny. But it's not funny because it's actually happening.
Right.
You know.
But you know, Otto, you still kept your sense of humor. I mean, that video we just watched, part of you must, I don't know, you must have a way of conjuring humor in situations where most of us would probably be crying.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a talent, I guess, a gift maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty dark. I like dark humor, you know, a little bit twisted, and I just couldn't get away from them. You know, it was like the all-seeing eye of God, and my buddy David Boren, thank the Lord he showed up. You know what I mean? Because my phone had just died, and this is actually from his camera angle. So when he showed up, he said something about lick their boots, and I was just like, "Oh, I should lick his boots." Maybe he'll actually leave me alone. You know.
But
they gave me a ticket that day, and that ticket was immediately dismissed. And then,
go ahead.
You know, I actually about a month after that, I was arrested about a block from there for flipping off a cop, and that's one of the lawsuits. It's kind of hard to talk about the actual lawsuits, though.
I understand.
Like while they're going on.
Yes.
Of course.
But I mean, what happened is video, you know. And it's always funny. I think everything I try to do, everything I do is always funny, even like in just everyday life.
You know, James, I was going to ask you about something because when we were covering the sentencing of Eric Brandt, who we talked about before, you were kind of had it. I guess you had like a live stream of the Zoom, and did the judge try to do something to you just for doing that? I don't remember.
Well, he was actually going to punish everyone else for it. He was going to stop broadcasting it live because I was broadcasting it live on YouTube, which is just ridiculous. It's a live broadcast. The whole world can see it. I was rebroadcasting it. But since he couldn't touch me, he said, well, if James Freeman doesn't stop live streaming, then we're going to shut this down. So I quit streaming it and I just recorded it so that everybody else could watch it live.
Well, we tried to get cameras in the courtroom, but the judge denied us because the judge, the prosecutors, I guess anyone can deny you in Colorado. I'm not totally sure.
Unfortunately, and we did the appropriate process. We did what we're supposed to. We filled out the forms, and they're just like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
courts
Otto,
are far worse than police.
What is?
Judge.
Oh,
Judges.
yeah. Yeah. Otto, have you heard from Eric recently?
I have. He's doing as well as a man who's stuck in a cage can be.
Well, I'm sorry.
Eric is another one of those people who's unbreakable. He's always upbeat. He always finds humor and he always stays busy. He's actually basically like, I guess what would be on the outside city government. He's like writing bylaws for a program that they got going on. So I mean, this guy can't take a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's still trying to help other people out with their situations while you know he can't really do much about his own.
But that's a really interesting thing about this, as I've been working on reporting on what you guys do and understanding it, is there is a community, like you said, you know, people will show up when you're in trouble or people will bail somebody out. How do you feel about that? I mean, to me, it's amazing.
It's a little bit freaky. A little bit weird. It's
James-
cool though. You know, you meet a lot of interesting people. You know how that goes. People are people, you know.
Yeah.
But the whole greater community, people want to do things. People want to do something to help, and sometimes they choose some of us, and sometimes they choose to feed the cats, which can also get them arrested.
Well, James,
You know
I
what I
mean, are you surprised sometimes when people will bail each other out or do this or have this community that's emerged from this process of cop watching?
Surprised? No, definitely not. Just because there's a lot of people who I get emails from them all the time, and they say, you know, my health's not that great. I can't get out and do what you're doing physically. But there's always people behind the scenes willing to help out. We all can play our different roles. Not everybody has to be out there with a camera. And I think Otto has been bailed out a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. And sometimes it's people that we don't even know that reach out and say, hey, you know, I've been watching and you've inspired me, and I just want to do something to help.
You know, that's something I've noticed, and it's something that Noli D helped show me, which is that there's this incredible community online, people that support each other. I mean, Noli D, I think, reached out to me after maybe like my second or third episode. Noli and I have had a relationship for almost 4 years now, and she really helped open my eyes to the world of cop watchers. And it's amazing that what people do, they'll bail each other out, they'll make phone calls from each other, they'll flood police departments with phone calls to each other. It's absolutely amazing. So that's something that that I really appreciate, is that you've let me become part of your community. And I want to thank every cop watcher out there, including Otto and James. And I think I saw the OG Tom Zebra in the chat. I think we have to shout Tom Zebra out. And Monkey 83's in there. There's so many names, but they went by.
Somewhere, I know for sure Chris Powers is smoking a cigarette.
Oh my gosh, he's in the chat, probably actively smoking a
He's
cigarette.
probably smoking a cigarette while he's looking at the chat. Now he's cursing me. He's like, damn it, Steven. Why did you have to say I was smoking a cigarette? Chris, why don't you write in the chat and tell me right now if there's not a cigarette in your hand? Tell me. I want to see it. I know it is. Put it down. Put it out. It's not good for you. We're concerned about you.
Yes. And I would just ask this before I let you guys go, because it's amazing to have both of you here right now.
Yes, it is.
If a lot of times people say, well, you know, do we have any hope for police reform? What can I do? You know, they'll see you, James, with your channel, and they say, well, you have a channel, you're able to have influence. What can just a regular person do? What would you say to the average person who wants to make a difference, who wants to see police reform, who wants to make a change and make sure that people's constitutional rights are protected? What would you say to them? Would you say, yeah, grab a camera and become a cop watcher? Or would you say, whatever you do, don't become a cop watcher? What advice would you give them?
Seriously though, a lot of the calls that I've been to where people get abused are where somebody has called the cops over some arbitrary crap and the police show up and escalate. Seriously, don't be a Karen. Quit calling the cops all the time. And I know this is an answer not a lot of people want to hear, but this comes from the heart. We've got to try to figure out, one, how to resolve some of the issues that we can resolve on our own. I know that that's not always easy. People are out there who will take life, liberty, and property, who are going to try and harm us, and you feel like you need to call the state. But gosh, the truth is you got to stay as far away from them as you can.
Wow.
There's got to be somebody better at arbitrating a situation that, you know, needs arbitrating. Call a friend, call a family member, call somebody.
That's a
people may not like that advice, but that's what I've got.
No, I really appreciate that. What about you, Otto? What would you say?
I think that's fair advice, and I don't really have any answers on what could be done to change or fix anything. I think that would be up to the individual, and I think everybody should do something. You know, whatever it is that you think needs adjustment in this world, you should be the one to change. If not all of it, at least some of it. And anything that you do is better than doing nothing. So even if it's making a phone call and leaving a voicemail complaining about a bad whatever it is, trash man, whatever it is.
Let me ask you. Let me just ask you a question.
That's great advice.
I want to ask both of them this question. Do you guys think I should stay outside, or do you think I should start reporting from inside with Taya?
Don't let him weasel his way back in.
You definitely belong outside. You're becoming more visibly rugged. I see you in the next 6 months wearing a flannel shirt.
Yes.
Can you wear a tie with it?
James, what about? Can you give me a little help here? Get me back inside with Taya, or is that?
I really can't help you there, buddy. I don't recommend the tie. It might get caught in the chainsaw, which would be disastrous.
Oh my god! Whoops.
I guess the chainsaw comes with the flannel shirt.
You know,
chainsaw comes with a flannel shirt. It's part of the kit. Comes in a bundle on Amazon.
Our editor really likes the way that I don't have my tie's not straight. He remarked on it today. He really admired me for wearing a tie askance every time I come to the office. So clearly, I'm meant to be outside.
Apparently.
And both of you agree. I appreciate that.
Well, I promised you both that I wouldn't keep you for long. And I just want to thank you both so much for helping us celebrate this 4-year anniversary of PAR. And just in case anyone didn't know, that's James Freeman. You should go check out his channel. That's Otto the Watchdog. You should go check out his channel and help support this amazing cop watcher community any way that you feel moved to do so. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
By the way, did Chris Powers say that he put out a cigarette?
Oh, he said happy anniversary.
Well,
but he didn't admit to smoking. I believe he is.
I know he's smoking.
He couldn't type it because he had a cigarette in his hand.
A little bit inside baseball there. I apologize for that. Just someone we know who smokes too much, but we both care about. So anyway, because we're reporters, we're human beings too. Sometimes.
Yeah, we try.
We do try. By the way, the free coffee's been great tonight. Thank you, Taya.
Oh yeah. You just keep on drinking it up. No worries at all.
Good.
So I wanted to share with you all some final thoughts. And like I said at the beginning of the show tonight, it is hard to believe we've been producing PAR for 4 years. And it's even more amazing that around this topic, this very simple idea of accountability, a whole community has emerged and embraced us, a community of people who have things in common and sometimes we don't. But what amazes me is how we put all of that aside and realize we have one thing absolutely in common: rights that belong to everyone, and rights that it's everyone's job to protect and even expand. Rights that are often challenged by law enforcement and eroded by the courts that rely on all of us to fight back, and rights that should be just the starting point for any conversation about how we are governed and by whom. And that's the point that I think I want to leave you with tonight. I think one of my main concerns about law enforcement is how, by trying to limit our rights, it curtails our ability to think that we even deserve better. And that is by constantly fighting just to preserve what we have. We don't have the time or energy to imagine that we could have even more. So I guess my point is that this community of YouTubers and cop watchers and commenters point to something better, something that is real and something that is tangible. And to me, this means the possibility of a better world with more freedoms and more equality and more of what we believe makes for a healthy and free society. I think all of you who have watched our show and click on our videos are a giant and powerful affirmation that we have the right to demand more from our government, that we expect and believe they can do better, that the future is not theirs to define with laws and arrests and imprisonment and car stops and ID requests and handcuffs, but it is ours to make into a community not defined by punishment, not a world of surveillance, but of decency, not a life infringed upon by the state, but claimed by everyone watching tonight. I believe that even though I report on bad cops and government malfeasance, the fact that you are watching, the fact that you care, the fact that you believe in this process is a reason to be optimistic. I believe that your power to keep us going and making our show meaningful is a power that will continue to evolve until each and every single one of us has the justice and the power that we deserve. So those are my thoughts, my belief and my trust and my faith in all of you. And for those of you who disagree with us, well, I hope you know that we are fighting for everyone's constitutional rights, even those of you who don't agree with us. And so Stephen and I are going to shout out as many people as possible who helped make this happen. Thank you, Noli D, who reached out to me so quickly into our PAR evolution. Like I said, we've been together for 4 years and we're just going to keep going. Thank you for all your help. You've helped me better understand the Cop Watcher extended universe. Thank you, Lacey R, for being an awesome mod and a wonderful support. I really do appreciate you. Thanks to the folks behind the scenes, Kayla Rivera and Dwayne Gladden. And now for my Patreons. And just so you know,
well, hold on, wait, but one, can I just, we have to say thanks to our editor, Max.
Oh, yes, Max for participating
and participating in our mini doc.
In our little mini doc, the
and
man
really
outside.
Laying it out, you know, and letting me know where I belong. Max, thank you. You know, you've given me the courage to go back outside, and I appreciate that. So thank you, Max.
Of course. And now can I talk to my Patreons?
Yes, you can talk to your Patreons.
Okay.
I just had to say that.
Of course. So Patreons, thank you so much. And just so you know, when I say your names, I will just use your first name and the last initial because some of you folks haven't let me know if it's okay to use your last name. So I don't want to accidentally reveal any information. So if it's not obviously a pseudonym, I'm just going to use your last initial. So thank you to Farmer Jane USA, Joseph P, Marvin G, Kimmy Cat P, Devil, Nope, Kurt A, Patty, Angela True, David K, who's a associate producer. Thank you, David K. We appreciate you. The Social Nationalist, David B, Marcia E, John R, who is also an associate producer. I always love getting messages from you, and I really appreciate you being a wonderful patron. Daniel W, Zira M, Louis P, who's also a PAR associate producer. Louis P, don't forget to reach out to me and message me. I'm hoping we can have a conversation. You had some really interesting thoughts, so please get back in touch with me. William T G, DB Mixie, Sushant, Kemi, John K. Hi, John. Chris R, who's a super friend. We love you, Chris R. XXXX, Potshot, Kenneth Lawrence K, Stephen B, Blibbits, hi Blibbits, Cindy K, Dante KS, Seskel S, John M, Pineapple Girl, Keith Bernard M, Joe 6, The Sixth Estate AZ, John M, Gary T, Janet K, Rhyme Pentilla, Mark William L, Noli D, Kyle R, Guy B, Shane Busta, super friend, always good to see you. Calvin M, Stephen D, Ron F, Alan J, Trey P, Julius Geezer, Omar O, Umesh H, John P, Ryan P, Lacey R, Rod B, Douglas P, Andrea J O, RBMH, Siggy Young, Stephen J, Michael SL, Default Urine, Celeste DS, PT, Just My 2 Cents, Talia B, Peter J, Sean B, K Atwater, Joel A, Tim R, Larry L, Ronald H, Tamara A, Artemis LA, John K, and True Tube Live, Jimmy Touchdown, Kenny G, AS Circle of the Quantum Note, Brian M, Byron M, Felonious Punk, great name, Loretta S, Mike K, another Mike K. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for putting up with some of the technical difficulties. Live is not
Yes.
exactly
And I-
my forte, but I love the opportunity to get to talk with you. You know I love the live chat, you guys. I love the live chat so
I
much.
think we should have one more sip of free coffee before we go out, because I want to thank the Real News for providing me with free coffee all the time.
Oh, and you
Yeah,
know
it's-
what?
it's
If you
toast.
want one of these mugs, just donate. And also, there might be a Patreon link in the comments. Lacey R might put one up. So if you like hearing me say your name and say thank you, and you want to see some of our Patreon
Can you
goodies,
just
it's
toast me
there.
with my free
Oh,
coffee, please?
cheers.
Cheers. Like Max said, it's good.
This is not coffee. Bye, you guys. Have a great night. Be safe. And as always, let me say, be safe out there. I really mean it. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Take care.